and welcome. Today I'm in Rome in the year 1984. But the title of the video is The Pyramid of Iunnuh. The only pyramid in Rome is that of Caius Cestius. Is this some kind of joke? Naturally no. The text adventure I'm talking about today was written in Rome and published in the magazine MC Micro 33 in the September issue. At the start of 1984, in February, they published a text adventure by Fabio Schiaparelli, The Time Machine. It was small, only 13 locations, and it only understood around 30 words. But it was popular enough that Aristide Torelli, the first hero of this story, wrote The Pyramid of Iunnuh.
Grazie mille.
The computer? Texas Instruments 99/A. A computer that finished production in March of the same year. The magazine published the last article for the computer in July 1985. Why then am I talking about a text adventure on a forgotten computer in a foreign language? The story doesn't end here. It only begins. Now, before we go to the computer of Aristide Torelli for our adventure, I made a small introduction for the game with the greatest of respect and admiration, using only Extended Basic. So, fill your cups, take up your keyboards, and get ready for adventure. This is the original version by Aristide Torelli on the TI 99/4A using Extended Basic. Deep in the desert lies the Great Pyramid of Iunnuh. The ancient legends tell that it is full of treasures, but no man that has ever searched for it has ever returned to tell the tale. I will be your eyes and ears. Your goal is to take away all the treasures the pyramid hides. Good luck, you will need it. This is an introduction I've done using the TI-99 capabilities. It has 16 colours. You can have different characters you can define. So I've created various characters. Each character can have 2 colours. You also have sprites moved across the screen, which can be done with a little bit of animation. And you get 3-channel sound at the same time, which I've done using the little tune Streets of Cairo. The game starts and we are in a desert. Note the font. This is a very special font. The Texas Instruments has uppercase and small caps. And Mr. Torelli has actually changed all the small caps to a lowercase font. The idea being that the computer talks lowercase, but you talk uppercase to it. When he typed it all in, it filled completely the memory of the non-expanded computer. Adventure games require lots and lots of memory. And after pressing run, there were only 100 bytes left. So text adventures require use of language. Here we are typing in Vi Al Sud, which is go to the south. English adventure games are often verb object, which is a little bit crude. The Italian ones here are having the article as well. So you have to say examine the object, which is fine. But with verbs of movement, you can just go just the word north or just the letter. So here I'm examining the writing. So in the desert, there's a sign here, something written on the sign, and it says, "Bring here the treasures." So, as is traditional for adventure games of this era, you have to go and find treasures and then bring them somewhere in order to win the game. We've now managed to find the Pyramid of Iunnuh. We can see a door, and unfortunately the door is shut. So our second puzzle, after finding the pyramid, is to open the door, and we have nothing to open the door with. So I've now got inside the pyramid, we've skipped forward in time, and it's dark. It's pitch black, Buio Pesto, it's pitch black, and it's dangerous to move in the dark. One of the issues you'll also have with old school computers is fixed width fonts and fixed, so you have to be very careful about where the line splits are, hence the dash. So I'm now trying to move around the dark, and I'm trying to find where the exits are. Of course, it's dark, so I can't really do that. And light puzzles are an important part of the game. I've fallen and died. Once we've crashed out with the program, it then resets the lowercase font back to the default. This is the default lowercase font that the Texas Instruments 99.4a uses. And as we run, we'll see the code then go put it back to Mr. Torelli's version. And it'll do it obviously in alphabetical order, starting with the A and moving forward, and it all shrinks down again as you run, which is really rather splendid. Beautiful, beautiful. That was the first version of the adventure, but not the version that I discovered. 18 months ago, I was in an Airbnb. Not luxurious like here, Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo, but comfortable. After work, I was looking on the internet for a text adventure that I'd played when I was small. An Egyptian text adventure that began with the player inside an egg. I looked on the website Spectrum Computing for adventures in ancient Egypt when I saw the Pyramid of Iunnuh. What's this? I asked myself. We call this cocktail the blood of the pharaoh. Straight away, I read the article in the magazine MC Micro number 35, and I began to type in the program. I like to type in programs because I believe it's more authentic. Also, it gives me ideas for myself. The adventure was more than a translation of the original. Mr. Manlio Severi had taken the original and had made some additions by adding colour and sound and a typeface. Now I'll show you the version for the ZX Spectrum by Manlio Severi in the original Italian. Naturally. Chin chin. This is the ZX Spectrum version by Manlio Severi, which first appeared in MC Micro number 35, just 2 issues after the original. Mr. Severi was given some assistance from Mr. Torelli. I created this loading screen just to give us something nice to look at while I ramble on, out of respect for the old Spectrum colours. One thing you'll notice when the game loads is that Mr. Severi has provided a very nice font, which in the text, people who want to put the font are staccanovites of the keyboard. And here it is. We also now have the introductory story within the game itself. In the Texas Instruments version, it was in the magazine because there wasn't enough room. Now, about to enter the desert. Note the border goes cyan because we're outside under the beating African sun. And again, I'm in the desert. There's a torch. And we can move north, south, east and west. The path is the same. We get to move around. And now we're now in the dark. So because you're in the dark of the pyramid, the screen's gone black with white text. Very simple effect, but clearly, oh shit, I'm in the dark. Once you now light the light, you get a yellow text because you're using a torchlight. And here we are in a room where there is a venomous cobra and a sapphire. So what happens if we try and take the sapphire? Obviously, the cobra kills you and you're dead, as you would expect. However, what if you solve the puzzle correctly? That was unique to this unexpected version in Italian by Mr. Severi. And here's a bug which the last 18 months was convinced was a design decision. However, because I've now looked at every other version of the game, it's only in the version printed in the magazine, and I believe it's wrong. So what that bit of code does is, whenever you're in the same... if the mummy's pursuing you, then Object 1 goes to the room where you are now. So what that means is, Object 1 is the torch, though. So that means is whenever the mummy's following you, you keep dropping the torch. And if you drop the torch, you're in the dark. And if you move in the dark, you'll fall down and break your head and die. So the mummy cannot kill you. Here's what's meant to happen, is the mummy follows you around. And it's not instant death. However, if you go too far or in the wrong place, the mummy will eventually attack you. But in the Spectrum version, you can't get that far because the mummy will never ever attack you. And here I've been killed by the mummy. Terrifying. Ciao! It seems that I'm lost in the desert. I bought a map, but I can't seem to find the pyramid. After I played the Spectrum version of Manlio Severi, I was full of ideas. I wanted to add a loading screen and a display with graphics and music for victory. The Triumphal March of Aid. I also wanted to explore more of the world of Iunnuh and looked on the internet for the history of this pharaoh, Yanko and Hanu. I did not find the information, but I discovered that a translation into English had already been made by the same man that sold me this map. Dr. Davide Bucci has written a version in Java as an applet in the year 2011. After that, in 2018, he wrote a version in the language C, and then made that version for all the computers of Commodore 64, 128, plus 4, PET, and even the VIC-20 with the 16K expansion. On his website, he said that the VIC-20 was the most difficult, but he managed to do it. Now, I'm going to show you the versions of Dr. Bucci. Ah, what's this? A torch! And it works! More or less. What good luck! I'm going to need it. So in 2011, Dr. Davide Bucci took the Pyramid of Iunnuh, he was a fan of it, and moved it across to a Java applet. Java applets were bits of Java code you could run inside a web browser. You can't do that anymore, though. However, you can still download the jar file from his website, and you can then run it in a DOS prompt, as we see here. So just run the jar, and you have a nice text adventure running in a DOS prompt. Obviously, the original is 2011, it's in Italian, based on the 1984 version, and it's very, very nice piece of work. Then in 2018, he had the idea to write in the C language and then compile it using a selection of cross-platform compilers. This is the version that's compiled for the Commodore PET, and because his computers have more memory than the Texas Instruments, he's able to give better descriptions. So rather than just a torch, you can look at the torch, and it's a nice professional torch with a powerful light bulb and a Fresnel lens. He also managed to use similar tools to compile the C code for the ZX Spectrum. Note here that it's loading, but it's actually bytes, because it's 15.5K of machine code. Note we have a dedicated font. The font seems a little bit small. That's because he's actually using his own print routine. So again, we have all the introductory text on the screen, the treasures, which will be written in blue. Again, I'm in the desert. We've got your various directions. And we can look at the torch and get the expanded description. And if you note, I noticed that the screen was text was a little bit smaller because he's managed to get a 64 characters on the screen. One of the problems you have with text adventures is line spacing, where if lines break, it just takes you out of the adventure because the spelling's wrong. It also runs on the Commodore 64. Essentially, you compile the code and he gives us various sets of flags, what language is it, what platform it is, and you get the output pops up. So here we've improved the description. What was originally a triangular room is now described. Commodore 128. We have a nice wide screen, and here we can try and eat drugs. Remember, kids, winners don't use drugs because drugs will kill you stone dead. How about the Commodore Plus 4, which was compatible with the Commodore 64, unlike the Commodore 16? Different colours, but all compiles nicely. The text is going to be in yellow. I'm in a green room. Let's try and eat some canapes, because that's what people do in green rooms. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, that's a shame. It works exactly the same, and it's all pretty good. We're in the old armory. Again, we've added some description here with corroded bronze hook attached to the walls. We head east in the hieroglyphics room, carved in the wall, full of ancient formulas and spells. Lovely. Finally, onto the VIC-20. The VIC-20 is small. It's a system I'm not very familiar with, but you get a lot on the VIC-20. But he was managed to cram the adventure on here. Note how big and chunky the font is. That's how the VIC-20 looked. Nice wide characters. Here we go. The story of the Iunnuh's pyramid. It was Iunnuh, not Iunnuh, because he misread it. He's made a joke out of it. Here we're about to win on the VIC-20. We gather all the items, drop it. Once you have all 5 items in the desert, you drop them and then you win the game. And that was Iunnuh on all the systems. He's also done a version that runs just on normal systems, which is just C, compiled as an exe.
Hello. What's going on here then? Evening, officer. I'm not really drunk, you know. This is all a cunning ploy. I've got a bit of a problem. My father died in a tragic accident. Or so I thought. Then, one by one, his colleagues died. It's the curse. And now the curse is attacking the children of those who dared to profane the tomb of the Pharaoh Iunnuh and his wife Hanike. After years of study, I've discovered that there's a ritual that can save us. But we've got a problem. The ritual is hopefully detailed in my father's notebook, with all the details of the pyramid he discovered. Unfortunately, the notebook is nowhere to be found. I'm hoping that it's somewhere with the rest of the treasures in the British Museum. I've been coming here day after day, I've never seen it. Worse, the ritual can't be performed on just any day. The planets have to be in the correct alignment. One of those days is tonight. The next, 19th of May, 2161, by which time we'll all be dead. So, I need to break in, find the notebook, hopefully in the treasures, and perform the ritual, or else I'm dead. It's Big Ben, it's midnight. Let's crack on with this before the cop comes back.
Now you return to 2014, where the original author, Mr. Torelli, has developed an adventure writing system. And it's available on his website, and has various executables as a player to play the adventures, and also an editor. And this is the sequel to Iunnuh that he wrote 30 years after the original. Iunnuh 2, The Curse That Comes from the Past. It's in Italian, obviously, because he's Italian. And you start off outside the British Museum, where the curse of Iunnuh has killed your father and his colleagues, and it's up to you to lift the curse. And unfortunately, you've only got tonight to do it in, because the planets must be aligned. So it runs in a window, you can change the font, you can change the colours, so it's quite easy to use. And the files come in two forms. There's the standard form, AWS, and there's also a encoded form, which means you can't cheat. So the program can read it, but you as a person can't just open it in Notepad and have a look. And it's full of lovely little Easter eggs for fans of the original. So here we've moved to the south and see there's a flute on the ground. And we examine the flute, and we find out, it's a flute, and it's a reproduction of a manufacture found in the period of Iunnuh, and you could buy it for a few euros in the gift shop. Because in the original game there is a flute, and you have various either reproductions or copies or the originals. I can't play the flute, I can't take the flute because it's useless. Here's a puzzle. I'm now in a cellar. It's a square cellar, and on one wall there's a big mirror. So let's break the mirror. Unfortunately, breaking the mirror shatters it into 1,000 pieces, and it cuts me as well, which kills me. Took 41 turns. Oh dear, and I've died horribly. This is the joy of adventure games. That's not the only adventure available. There are various others available on his website in space, and also really detailed in the manual. The Pyramid of Iunnuh was a game that went on to inspire other people. It was simple enough to be used as a model, but complicated enough to be interesting. And even if you look in the MC Micro magazine, it goes on to be used to inspire adventure games on the MSX after the Texas Instruments has long been forgotten. And Dr. Bucci was inspired by the Pyramid of Iunnuh to get into adventure games. Thank you all for watching, and check out the links below.